Well, hello and welcome to this late night after dark edition of 907 Sports, where it is all Alaska all the time. Jordan Rodenberger calling the plays in this one. And the biggest story in Alaska sports this week is, of course, that the state has a new NFL team to cheer for this season. One of our very own making the NFL. And an Alaskan back in the league. Anchorage's Brandon Peely made the Miami Dolphins' final 53-man roster, is officially a Dolphin for the 2023-24 season. The 23-year-old grew up in Anchorage and went to Diamond High School, where he was an all-conference wrestler, track and field athlete, and, of course, a football player, growing to be 6'3" and 345 pounds. The defensive lineman went on to play for USC, the school's first ever football player from Alaska, eventually going undrafted and picked up by the Miami Dolphins in the offseason and during training camp and the preseason games. Proved himself enough to Miami that he deserves one of those roster spots. Congratulations, Brandon Peely. Looking forward to cheering you on from Alaska. And yes, even when you're playing my Green Bay Packers, looking forward to following your journey there. And I'm just going to roll some recent high school football highlights as I ramble about what happened last week and what's ahead this week. Friday night, Colony Knights, the defending D1 state champions, protected home field against a talented Service team, 33-25. Of course, Jack Nash with his fingerprints all over the victory as quarterback and on defense. While in Division II, Soldotna is on an absolute mission after winning 8 straight championships previously. The Lathrop Malamutes of Fairbanks took the last 2, but Sohai obliterated them in week 1 and have not slowed down since, defeating Palmer 76-7 last week. Our largest margin of victory in most points in a game this season. Homer 52-0 over Kodiak. They're looking to go back-to-back as Division III state champions. Saturday's action featured an East beatdown over South 42-14. The T-Birds' two-way star Austin Johnson is coming for that Player of the Year crown. Great start for the undefeated T-Birds, coming in at number 2 team in the state, as Johnson had 3 touchdowns on offense and a pick 6 on defense for a total of 4. Count them up, 4 touchdowns on the evening. The number 1 team in state, West, went to Fairbanks and took care of business against Lathrop, 34-20. Bartlett was all over Juneau, 56-21, and Barrow upset over Houston, 12-6, in what was some Ukiyavik type weather in the valley with the wind and rain, which we'll certainly hear more about later on, as this week East is skipping town to face North Creek High School in Bothell, Washington, while the West Anchorage Eagles are soaring to sunnier weather, Honolulu, Hawaii, to take on Aiea for a bit of a homecoming for many of these players.
You know, I think the biggest thing is that our Alaskan kids should pursue an opportunity to get to play competition outside the city and the state in general. So that's where this began. We've done Hawaii before. We have so many family members over there with our team. 2 of our coaches played for Aiea, for Coach Say. So it's a cool legacy thing for those guys. And so we have a family connection over there, literally.
You know, this trip right here, it means a lot to me and my brothers. I got a lot of cousins that play down in Mililani. So just seeing them, showing support, and saying that we got it means the world.
You know, I think when you get an opportunity to go back to places where you have family and you have this opportunity to showcase, a lot of these family members have seen these kids when they're little, and now they get to see them grown up playing a tough sport. That's a special deal.
The number 1 team from the last frontier taking their talents to the Aloha State. Not something super uncommon, but something definitely pretty cool and special for a lot of these players, as they estimate 20 or more kids, maybe even half the team, has relatives or a family connection in Hawaii, including Captain Christian Falatoi, who we heard from earlier. Efforts for this trip began nearly a year ago, and fundraising efforts began for Maui Relief a few weeks ago. The program raised some money there as well. Now, this complicated things this week, as this game was originally scheduled for last week, but Aiea had to reschedule, which means West had to reschedule, and they were set to face Diamond High, and they now have to forfeit that one to Diamond. So technically, West is not entering this game undefeated no longer. However, it does leave the Diamond Lynx without an opponent this week and on a bye, kind of make things a little interesting towards the end of the season, when these wins and losses really matter and come down to playoff time. However, every single team makes the playoffs in Division I, all 8 teams, but seeding, of course, makes a big difference. And it's definitely going to be a super awesome experience for them. They have arrived and are safe and are ready to take on some true Friday night lights, as it definitely gets dark there as well. It's going to be an awesome experience, as what was not an awesome experience, at least, you know, in the moment, in hindsight, it was pretty awesome to be a part of, was being at Kincaid Park on Saturday. It was wet, it was windy. I'm still kind of drying off from it, but it did create some athlete of the week type performances out of the Chugiak girls high school cross country program. Spectators at Kincaid Park braved constant downpour, while hundreds of high school athletes withstood 40+ mile-per-hour winds at the Big 8 Invite, featuring all of the large schools in the Anchorage area. While daring the course and completing the race was impressive enough, what the Chugiak girls accomplished falls into the sports rarities of making a hole-in-one, bowling a 300, or throwing a perfect game.
It's top 5 all blue. Well, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure that.
As the Mustangs put up a perfect score of 15 points, with runners placing 1st through 5th in some of the toughest conditions they've ever experienced.
I don't know. I'm numb. I mean, like, I would be on a flat part and I would be leaning so far forward because of the wind. It looked like I was going up a hill, but I wasn't.
The 2-time defending state cross-country champions lost some senior star power last year, but are on pace for another strong season.
They pulled it through every time, and look what we're going through, and they did it again, so they're awesome group to work with.
In what was simply an unforgettable Alaskan cross-country race.
I would say it's more memorable than probably like even state last year, because it's actually kind of fun to just be in the rain and running in the wind, and it makes it very different.
Now, I've been a sports reporter in Alaska for about 4 years now, and I have covered in some pretty brutal conditions. I mean, I worked in Fairbanks, Alaska, for crying out loud. I went to Eagle, Alaska for the Yukon Quest. Very cold there. I've been on the Iditarod and along some of those checkpoints where it is remote, it is cold, it is windy. I've been to Utqiagvik. I mean, the list goes on, and that was one of the more miserable experiences I have been a part of while covering a sporting event. It wasn't that terribly cold, as you had heard, but my goodness, the rain was sideways, the wind was relentless. I mean, anyone that finished that race, kudos to you. And shout out to all the other sports reporters and photographers I saw out there, the unsung heroes, to make this stuff happen. But incredible performance from the Chugiak girls. They're right on track to be where they were at this point last year. Now, in case you missed it, let's cap things off with a state record rockfish that was caught recently. I mean, it did pretty well on social media, may have came across it, but in case you didn't, here is the story on the state record rockfish caught, and I caught up with the man who caught it. Smooth.
Oh my God.
That's massive.
When I hooked it, it was so big it made me think it was a halibut.
Hey, sorry folks, may not have been able to hear me in that much in that last one, but basically I explained everywhere I had been and how cold I have been while covering sports in Alaska, from the Iditarod, Yukon Quest, up to Utqiagvik, you name it. That cross-country meet was one of the most brutal conditions I have been a part of. Anyways, sideways rain, wind, you saw it. Anyways, back to this state record rockfish, please.
Oh my God.
That's massive.
When I hooked it, it was so big it made me think it was a halibut.
That was Keith DeGraff's reaction July 28th when he hauled in the biggest rockfish this state has ever seen.
30 pounds, 40 pounds.
I couldn't get this fish's head over the side of the boat. Like, it was massive.
That massive short raker officially weighed in at 42.4 pounds at 42 inches in length, certified by the Alaska Department of Fish and Game.
And when I first laid eyes on it, it was bigger than my torso and my legs combined. It was the largest rockfish I've seen in my 11-year career with Fish and Game.
DeGraff, a 32-year-old port captain in Whittier, took his fiancée and some friends out to the depths of the Prince William Sound.
There was a game plan going into it. Did I know I was going to catch the state record? I'll be honest and say no. But I was fishing in an area where I had caught
bigger than average fish before.
Where for more than 1,000 feet deep, he reeled in a record rockfish previously set at 39.1 pounds a decade ago.
The funny part about this story is that I was actually fishing in a way that I could catch something other than a rockfish. I was just using hooks and bait. So I was hoping to catch a black cod or something else that lives in sub 1,000-foot depths.
And the fish weighed closer to 50 pounds when pulled out of the water before being bled out and put on ice before the official weigh-in.
The sportsman in me prevailed to where I wasn't willing to risk the quality of the meat for sake of my name on a piece of paper somewhere. The fish is in my freezer, and I will say the cheeks were delicious.
The fish is estimated to be between 60 and 120 years old, but will officially be aged using its otolith or ear stone.
And just like a tree, these have annuli, or like tree rings on them, that help us determine just how old they are.
Originally from New York, DeGraff and his family have made Alaska home, and now currently owns the Alaska state record rockfish.
I said for years that, especially after I caught my first one over 36 pounds, I said, now I've got it dialed in. The kid from New York's going to come catch the Alaska state record rockfish.
What a monster caught out of the Prince William Sound. DeGraff says that next time he hopes to have a scale available so he doesn't have to bleed it out, take all the eggs out, and lost quite a bit of weight there, as you heard. And he is aiming for that 50-pounder one day, and I believe he will do it. All fishing reports are on alaskasnewssource.com, and while you're there, go ahead and submit your fish frames. I know you were out there at some point this summer and caught some photos, maybe took a video. You can go and submit at alaskasnewssource.com. You go to the Connect with Us tab, submit photos and videos, submit your fish frames for a chance to be featured in an upcoming fishing report, which we only have a handful left as we are all in on fall/winter sports. Swimming's underway, cross country is underway, tennis is underway, volleyball is underway this week as well. And I also just went to my first university sporting event, UA volleyball, taking the 5-set victory over Upper Iowa tonight. And so a lot to catch up on in the next edition of 907 Sports. But I appreciate you tuning in for now, and I'll catch you next time.